Welcome guys to an episode of Tier Maker. So in this video we're going to be ranking all of the different Sonic designs. Now I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'm just going to cover a lot of the main ones, and I'll just be ranking them just off of how much I like them, just purely based off of looks or if there's some attachment to them. But yeah, and without any further ado, let's get started with Sonic's prototype design. It's pretty good. It's like a bit different from like what they ended up with, but I think it's like a pretty good base, and I like the longer tail spike. It's a pretty good design. I like it. I'll give it. There's a lot of really good ones on here, so I'll give it B tier, but that's only because it's like a lot of really good ones. Let's see. Next up, his first classic design in Japan. I think it's good. I uh I don't know if I prefer it more than the pro. I think I prefer it more than the prototype design by a little bit, but I don't know. It's a good. I think it's pretty good. Next up, the Western design. I know that the reason is that so it could appeal to like Western audiences more, and I like it to a degree. But I think if they mixed the Japan one and the Western one, I think it would look a lot better. I don't know. I think a good mix of the two would be good, but I think I'll give it C tier. Although it's still pretty good. I like it. Next up, we have a very similar design to that one, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which now that I think about it is kind of a combination of the two. Although it's not quite what I meant when I said a combination of the two. But it's pretty good. I liked it when I was little. I watched a good amount of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and yeah, I like it. I'll give it. I'll put it just a little bit behind it, C tier. So next up, the Sonic CD opening. It's a really good design, and I really like it. It's one of my favorites. I don't know. I mean, the sequence was made by the same company that animates Dragon Ball, so that it's got that going for it. But I don't know. I just really like the style of it. It's good, and we see like kind of a comeback of it later. But see, next up we have the Sonic OVA. I like this one. It looks a lot like the Sonic CD one, except I don't know why the spikes are so short. But besides that, I think it's pretty good. I like it. I'll give it A tier. Let's see, next I actually there's so many good designs on here. I think I have to. I'm gonna move a lot of these down, so like they can all fit. Although all these designs are still like really good. It's just I have to move it down so we can have more room for like the really good ones. See, next up we have the Sonic 3D Blast model. It's I I mean for the stuff they had at the time, it's a fairly good model that kind of got across Sonic. They did an okay job. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking. I'll still give it D tier, but it's something. See, next up, one that I really like, the Sonic Adventure. I think this is like the promotional model because they could not have used the promotional model in the actual game because they just couldn't. But I don't know, I really like it. I like the attitude that it has. It's really good. But see, next up we have the Sonic Adventure like drawn promotional art. I really like it. I like the style. I mean, you can see. I'll drop it just there for a minute now. It just you can really just see the style of it. I don't know. I really like it. So I'll also give it A tier. Next up we have Sonic Adventure 2. I really like the Sonic Adventure 2 design. I mean, one because of the soap shoes, obviously, but I think they kind of nailed the proportions with it. I think if they mixed it a little bit and just put a tiny, not that much, but just a tiny bit of like the modern Sonic like model that we have now, I think we'd have like the perfect Sonic model. But actually no, I think if we just mix the two entirely, but it nails down the proportions really well, and I really like how it's done. But next up we have the Sonic X design. It's really similar to the Sonic Adventure one, but I think I prefer it. Well, I think I like it a little bit less. It just doesn't have like like the attitude that this one has. I think, but it's still like a good design. It's just I a little bit prefer like the really similar one. See next up, the Sonic 06 model. This one, I don't know. It feels like it was kind of like it was kind of like the stepping stone in between like the Sonic Adventure and the modern Sonic model. Uh, I mean, it doesn't exactly do everything right, but I'm not gonna pretend that it's like horrible and did everything wrong. I think it did its job, and I think it did a pretty good job at it. So I'll give it a really low B tier. It's almost actually. Yeah, I think I'll. It just barely gets B tier, but I think yeah, it's still like a good model though. Although the game did suck. See, next up we have the. I think this is Sonic Rivals. I really like the art style it does. I think this would be. I don't know if. I mean, not that it should be a thing, but if there's ever like a fully 2D like modern Sonic game, then this would be like a great like art style for it. Although I highly doubt that that'll ever happen, but I really like it. I'll give it A tier. Next up, we have the Sonic Heroes model. This one, it's like this one seems like just a mix of like the Sonic like the what does it seem like? It seems like a mix of like the modern model and like I don't know. It just it feels a little bit off. It's really similar to the modern model, but just with the differences it has, it just makes it look a little bit off in my opinion. But it's still a good model though. Uh, I'll give it a little bit above the '06 model. Next up, we have the kind of overused but still pretty good modern Sonic model. I like this one. It's really good. I think if they mixed it again, like I said, if they mixed it with the Sonic Adventure 2 model, then it'd be really good. I think I don't know. The only real problems I have with it is like the eyes don't really like merge into the muzzle as well. There's that, and then I think also like the shoes could maybe like and not that there's anything wrong with the shoes. I think if they just curved up a tiny bit more, then like that'd be good. But besides that, I think it's really good, and yeah, I think it's a really good one. So I don't want to quite give it S tier because it's not quite there, but I really like it. I'll give it really almost S tier. Well, eh, I'll yeah, you know what? I'll give it S tier. It barely gets S tier, but I'll say it does get it. I think if those two just mixed, it'd be just perfect. Next up, we have Sonic Free Riders. I really like this one. I really like the hatching they did, like for all the shading. I will say that the shading is a little harsh, but it is good. I will say that. Although at parts, the how they decide the shade doesn't really make sense because that whole leg is like shaded with the hatching, but then that hand which is directly next to it isn't, which doesn't entirely make sense, but I guess it's so it doesn't just look like one big blob. But yeah, I think it looks good. Although I'm really not a fan of the shoes or the glasses, but it's still like I don't know, I like where they were thinking with it. I think I liked where they were going with it, so I'll give it B tier. Next up, the Sonic Boom design. Yeah, not the Sonic Boom design. All right. Anyway, next up we have the Sonic Mania one. It's really similar to the Toei one, made by Dragon Ball, like the Dragon Ball Studio. That they did like insane like reference off of it, but it's I think it's a really good job. I slightly prefer the Toei one it just has like a little bit more personality. But this one's really really good too. I think they did like a really good representation of like, I don't know, they represented it pretty well. Although this one has like a little bit more style with like the really dynamic posing. Not saying this one doesn't have good posing. It's just that like in a lot of the shots of this is really really dynamic posing, which I like. Next up, the first Sonic movie design. I will say he's a really bad design. But I will say that the Chip and Dale thing that he was in of Ugly Sonic, that was something. Although I do hate the design, he got a little bit he got a little place in my heart. He's something. Next up we have the good movie design, the one that actually got used. I like this one. It's actually it's really, it reminds me a lot of like the Adventure Sonic like promotional model. I don't know, it reminds me a lot of it. I will say there are like a bunch of like tiny changes. Like, would I make the arms tan? Yes. Would I make it one eye instead of like the two eyes? Yeah, but they're like such tiny things that like really don't take away from it that much. Unlike another Sonic that had blue arms. But yeah, no, I think it's still like a really good design, and I like where they're going with that. I'll give it. I'll give it. I'll give it. Actually, yeah, I think I'll give it a tier. But yeah, that'll be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye. Bon appetit.